Hello everybody, and welcome to another video in this series about setting up the Kurzweil K2700 and similar keyboards using fast technology. From some comments on previous videos, I thought it would be useful to do a video on setting up multis with splits and layers. I'm doing this a lot at the moment as I get the keyboard ready to play songs in two separate bands I'm in. And for some songs I'm doing splits between left hand and right, and also layers in both regions. For a couple of those songs I need to swap quickly between solo sounds in the right hand, so I've created a shortcut to do that using one of the trigger pads. So in this video I'll show you how to set up two layered sounds in the left hand, set up two alternative solo sounds for the right hand, and swap between the solo sounds using a trigger pad, muting one zone and enabling the other. You can adapt this in a number of ways to suit your own needs, because they're general principles you can use in different ways. So let's hear excerpts from one of the songs to see what I'm aiming at. So there's a piano in the left hand and an octave string riff in the right. Later on, in a part that I'm not playing at the moment, there's also strings duplicating the piano part, which is the left hand layer. And in another part of the song later on, you can hear a flute-like tone doing sort of solo or riff in the background. So I'll need to swap between the octave strings and the flute at this point. So let's start editing. So first of all I'm going to select a piano sound which is suitable. It's not quite the same as the one on the original track, but it'll do for my purposes. So I've chosen Factory Sound 35, which is this, which I like. Now the quickest way I've found to create a multi is to press layer in the program mode, and that automatically creates a new multi with the piano sound in the first zone, and it defaults to Studio A strings in the second zone. I found Studio A strings is suitable for quite a lot of uses, so I'm going to leave it set to that. So I'm going to save and rename it as a new multi. Save. I'm going to go for 8006 because I know that's a free slot. And rename. So there we have a new multi which we can edit. So that actually finishes zones 1 and 2, and they both play. So that's fine for the strings layer in the left hand. What we need to do is set the keyboard range so that we can have a right hand split. So let's edit again. And the range is going to go up to B4. So we'll wind this down to B4 and do the same for the strings layer. Here we are. So now we want our octave string sound on zone 3. We're going to change that to active, and the solo tone that I've got there is 5804, which I've already set up. Obviously you can choose what you want at this stage. Now we need to set pan and volume because they default to 0. So 64 is center panned. Once again you can choose what you like if you're spreading sounds out through the stereo field. And I'm going to set it to 110 just to match the other zones at the moment. Now we need to adjust the keyboard range for that so it doesn't overlap. And that's going to be C5 and upwards. So if I play that now, it's very high, so we need to go and transpose it on the main page, and that's going to go down 24 semitones. So you can hear that's pretty much like the original track. On this page you can also adjust the output gain if you find you haven't got a range of adjustment that you want on the overview page. But I'm going to leave it set to 0 dB because it's fine for me. Now I don't want sustain on this, so I'm going to go to the controls page and turn the sustain pedal off. So hold the enter button and press the sustain pedal, that jumps to where you want. We're on zone 3, so I'm going to turn that off because I don't want the sustain pedal working on this zone. So that finishes zone 3. for the moment. So let's do zone 4. I'm going to select another solo tone. Let's go back to the overview page. Set the zone to active. I'm going to choose 6402, which is something I've already set up. 6402. I've used a stock program with a couple of adjustments for that. So there's no volume yet. We're going to pan it to the center. And once again set it to 110 just to as a start. We can adjust it later. So you can hear both the strings and the flute tone. I'm going to set the keyboard range to start from C5 to match the other solo tone, and also it's a bit high at the moment, so main page, we're going to go to transpose and come 12 down, which brings it into the range that I want to play. Once again, I don't want the sustain pedal on this one, so go to the controls page. It's already on the sustain, so I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to save while we're there. So that's got our basic tone set up in the various zones. Now I want to set a pad to swap between the solo tones. So we're on zone 4 at the moment, and we're on the controls page, and selecting the controller, I'm going to use pad 13. So holding the enter button and pressing pad 13. Currently it's set to off in zone 4, so we're going to set it to MIDI controller. Toggle is correct. Now I know that destination 149 is mute zone, so I'm going to type 149 on the keypad, and there it's mute zone. So for zone 4 we want the zone to sound when pad 13 is on. Therefore it's not muted, and therefore the on value needs to be 0. The off value does need to be muted. I'm going to make that 127. And when we enter the multi, we want the pad to be off, so the strings sound. Now if you note in the top right hand corner, the display has changed to all zones because the entry state for the pad is common across the whole multi. You can't have pad 13 only for one zone, so it's changed to all zones. So now we're going to do zone 3. Let's go back up to pad 13 and go down a zone to zone 3. We want to turn pad 13 on in this zone with your controller. Destination once again is going to be 149, which is mute zone. So there we are. Now the on value needs to be the opposite of the other zone. So the on value is going to be 127 muted, and the off value is 0. The entry state is already set to off because we set that for all zones. So I'm just going to swap to zone 4 and check we've got the opposite settings. 0, 127, 127, 0. So that should work. Now normally we would use buttons 3 and 4 for enabling these zones. When you use the pad for swapping between them, it doesn't change the state of buttons 3 and 4 nor the colours, which can be confusing. So I'm going to go through and set those buttons 3 and 4 to off. So in zone 3, let's hold the enter key and press button 3. So that's currently set to mute zone. We're going to disable that. And then we go to zone 4 and switch 4, because we don't want that to mute zone 4. And so we disable that. So we're going to save that and see how it works. Okay, so the lower octaves are as we left them. Currently pad 13 is off, so we expect the string sound. So the introduction is so that's good. Now if we put pad 13 on, we can solo with the flute sound. And that flute sound has a nice aftertouch which brings on the vibrato, which was already built into the patch when I came to it. I do like to have vibrato and aftertouch for solo tones for expression. So that's the basic setup, but unfortunately the variation button, if you ever use it, may have some unintended effects, because it is actually enabled for all 4 zones at the moment. So if I press the variation button, which is out of shot at the moment, if you watch the display you get a string of parameter changes. Channel 1, 2, 3, 4, which changes a lot of things. So you can see it's added an octave layer to the strings, which I didn't want. And if I play the solo tone, it's actually added vibraphone. So those are things I don't want. I'll just turn the solo tone off. So optionally, you might want to disable the variation button for all of these zones, which is what I want to do. So let's turn off the variation button for one zone to show you how it's done, and you could do the others if you need to in your setup. So edit the multi, go to the controls page, and I'm going to turn off the octave layer for the strings in zone 2. So variation button is already selected in the controls page, and I'm going to turn that off and save and exit. So now when I operate the variation button, we only get channels 3 and 4, and there's no change to the layered strings in the left hand. So you can play tunes with the variation button. You can turn it on and off for the zones you want to suit your own setup. So I hope you found that useful and you can use it in your own setups and performances. As always, I prepared a PDF of the steps through this process, which you can download from my Dropbox, and the link is in the video description below. If there are other things you'd like to see covered in a video, let me know in the comments. I'm on a learning journey, so I don't guarantee to have answers, but I'm happy to investigate things that I might be able to use in my own music. I've got a couple more videos to make before I take a break to actually make some music. One is to create the octave string sound that I use for the solo tone in the right hand. And also for another song that I'm performing with a band, I've created a riff in song mode, and then I use it in a multi to be triggered by a pad to save actually playing the notes myself. Meanwhile, have a listen to some music that I produced on my YouTube channel. It's smooth jazz with some ambient tracks, and I hope to see you again in the next video. Bye for now.